This Disney DVD is enhanced with Disney's Fast Play. Your movie and a selection of bonus features will begin automatically. To bypass Fast Play, select the main menu button at any time. Fast Play will begin in a moment.
When you hear the word animation, what do you think of? Do you think of the films you watched as a child, or the films that dominate the industry today? I'm willing to guess that you thought of a film that impacted you as a child first. For me, this includes movies that were released in the late 90s to early 2000s. Movies like Finding Nemo, Mulan, Shrek 2, and Megamind. Maybe you even thought of a classic Disney animation like Sleeping Beauty or Peter Pan. Younger generations have an even wider selection of films to associate with this genre, with movies like Minions, Trolls, and Encanto being box office juggernauts. Whatever film you thought of, its impact is a part of a greater trend we've been seeing in the last half of the century, with films becoming more accessible to a wider audience, as more American families have had access to television at home, home video, DVD, and later streaming. More and more children have been exposed to the world of animated movies. But not only because of the new technological advances we've seen, with animated films becoming more accessible, the demand for them has also increased. In 2019 alone, Disney released 19 movies. The company took 15 years to do that when it first began. When Disney followed up its first release, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937, with Pinocchio, it took them 3 years. And with the technological advances we've seen in the last 20 years, it isn't surprising that it has become easier and cheaper to create and release movies for kids. But are these films increasing in quality with each subsequent release? Or are their creators more worried about releasing films to meet the public's increasing demand for children's content? With the outgoing continuous cry for children's content, many film distributors have placed more focus on the number of films they can release over the quality of those films. In the last 20 years, children have been negatively impacted by films specific to their demographic. This being due to excess media in the genre, the limited worldview that those films offer, and the effect the content can have on a child's brain. Going to see an animated film was once a great event, so much so that the regular American family would see the majority of them in theaters. This was made possible by Disney's Vault program, where Disney released one of its classic films back into theaters every few years starting in 1944 and ending in the mid-1980s. In the mid-80s, with the advent of home video, Disney continued to use its Vault program in a different sphere. Both of these tactics brought their stories to a new generation and continued to generate revenue for their older films. Today, with the advent of streaming, it is even easier to release a movie for kids and get it right to their fingertips, making the longevity of a film less important to its audience. If the film doesn't do well, big studios like Disney or Illumination can rely on the next one they have slated for release to help them make up their losses, especially if it's a movie associated with the franchise. It's not only the demand for animated movies that has allowed its increase in the genre, but also the advances in technology that have occurred. In 2009, Disney created a new process called Scrum. This team-based program made animations quicker and with less frustration from its animators. This also saved their studio more money and time, making possible the release of more movies as well. In its current state, the film industry fails to realize that children need more exposure to real-world issues, because many of them already face them and are looking for a source of understanding. Of course, this does not mean that each children's film must cover a pressing and sometimes scary issue for a child with a completely realistic lens, but it does mean bringing the issues to them using an understandable perspective. In the last 20 years, movies like Coco and Zootopia have made strides to help teach children about real-world issues like racism and life after death. Unfortunately, though, films like these can get lost in the swamp of other widely available in-your-face movies for children. One of the most recent offenders was released this year, Lyle Lyle Crocodile. The movie tells a story about a crocodile who learns to get over his stage fright and sing. Parents such as Teresa Smith call for Lyle to give their kids more credit. She says, "The biggest issue in Lyle Lyle Crocodile is that it should have given kids more credit. So much so that the script feels dumbed down so that they can relate and understand. This is a bummer because there are great lessons to be learned about being yourself and not caring about what others think, as well as about stage fright and finding true happiness in this movie." Lyle's only one of many offenders. This shows that although movies like Zootopia strive to improve their complex storytelling methods, Lyle Crocodile and his friends are still lurking in the shadows, ready to drag down their success, luring in consumers with the promise of entertainment without substance, and ready to pounce as soon as they get close. In 2020, the Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology did a study on how children are able to predict the plot of a film. In the study, they showed a short film titled Partly Cloudy to two groups of children, the first being 3 to 4 years old and the second 6 to 7 years old. As the children watched the film, they underwent an fMRI to measure the areas in the brain in charge of predictive response. The children were shown the short film twice, and the differences in their brain activity were recorded between each of the showings. The findings of the study not only showed that both groups of children understood what they were watching, but that they could remember and predict the plot on their second watch of the film. This provides greater evidence that children can understand what they are being shown as early as they enter kindergarten. Knowing this, it can be easy to see why it is imperative to show children films that contain quality messages. Not only do they understand these messages, but they can also change how they view the world around them, making quality films essential in these crucial years. With the evidence provided, there is great reason to believe that animated films do create a great impact on their audience. Now more than ever, this is an element that is lacking with each consequential release of a children's film. Just because a children's film is easier to create and release does not mean that it should be. Children are often smarter than we give them credit for, and they understand what they are being shown. So what can be done? The film industry does not seem to be slowing down anytime soon, but individuals who have children in their lives can make an impact. Choose to show your children quality movies and pre-vet films you have not seen before showing them to your child, especially a small child. Films can be used as tools to teach children about the world they live in and how they can make a positive impact in it. Do not waste this crucial opportunity.